Oh, I remembered. Okay, here we go. And let me just change screens here. Okay. Okay, can everyone see my my Canvas screen? Okay, great. And so welcome. This is Tuesday, February 1st, the Policy Leadership Academy. We are so pleased you're spending Tuesday with us. And this is Module 5. So we are so excited that we've actually been together, most of us, for 4 weeks now. So this is the 5th module going into February. And if you've been on our Instagram or our Facebook, we have a great lineup of speakers this February. We have Churla, we have our own Kimberly Garrett with the Children's Bureau of Southern California, and we have Melody Tao with social media. So we're super excited. So this is the first February module of many great speakers. So I'm hoping you'll enjoy. So I'm going to turn this over to my director, Sylvia Scott. And of course, I knew she was going to do that. I will turn it over to Sylvia Scott, who will be introducing Kimberly Garrett, our speaker for this evening.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us today. Appreciate you guys joining us. And as Tracy has said, we've had an exciting first month of PLA and looking forward to the next month and a half. But today we are very pleased and thankful to have Ms. Kimberly Garrett with us today. With over 30 years of progressive human resource experience in varying disciplines, Kimberly Garrett has a background using a holistic human resource management style. Kimberly supports all levels of professional development and has created cutting-edge programs in talent acquisition, talent and performance management, and executive coaching. Whether creating customized leadership training programs or facilitating change management initiatives, Kimberly utilizes her experience in both Fortune 500 companies and startups as well, private and nonprofit organizations, to help guide teams into becoming sustainable, high impact, and high performing teams. Kimberly is certified through various human resources and training organizations, and also teaches human resource practice. Additionally, she serves on various advisory boards and is listed as subject matter expert with many labor-related governmental agencies. Kimberly is a Chicago native and has called Southern California home for the last 18 years. She holds an MBA from the Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University. And along with Kimberly today, we have our very own Melvin Valentine. Melvin is also the manager of learning and development, and he's the head of CBU, which is Children's Bureau University, with Children's Bureau of Southern California. Welcome both Melvin and Kimberly today. We appreciate having you here.
Thank you so much, Sylvia. Thank you so much for everyone being here, spending time with us on a Tuesday evening. I know you have many choices on where you can be, so we're really, really happy that you're going to spend the next couple hours with us. Certainly, I am so proud of, for one, being a true blue member of the Children's Bureau of Southern California, and the work that is being done in these courses has really been thrilling. So we are really happy to be here. Melvin and I will guide you this evening through lots of interactivity. And Melvin, if you wouldn't mind putting that up, let's get started. Before we get really into this, I'd love it if everybody could just take one good, big, deep breath. You probably just came from somewhere. You've had a day. It's 5 o'clock. Let's just take a really good breath and allow some new oxygen to come into our bodies. Kind of move those head around a little bit. Just get ready for the evening so we can be able to bring in this information that we're going to share tonight together. Thank you so much for being there with me. I needed to do that. So thank you for allowing me. That's really what it was about. It was really only about me. All right. So you're going to see my style is high energy. So just be ready for that. And guess what? I don't drink coffee. So this is all natural. But this evening, we are going to be talking about communicating. I know the title, Tracy, was difficult people, but you see, I did a and I moved it and I changed it to challenging people, because I try really hard, really hard not to label people. And I'm trying very hard to be very open to the fact that you're going through things like I'm going through things, and maybe when we talk, it just doesn't happen the way we want it to. So let's talk about challenging situations and challenging people tonight. So thank you, Melvin. Let's keep going. So you didn't know this. We just transported in a matter of microseconds. That's what all that deep breathing was. We transported to Las Vegas. And you know what happens in Las Vegas? What happens there? What does it do? Stays there. So this evening, I'm going to ask that you honor each other's space and grace and allow that opportunity to share in a very open way. You might share experiences that, you know, might be a little embarrassing if it got out. So if you can, just please keep the information as global and generic as we can on what we talk about together tonight. Your participation is what makes this richer. It's not about me as the speaker. It's about you and the sharing into information. And if you can, I know that there's lots of things going on. It's evening now, but where you can, please keep your screen on. It allows us to have a maximized experience. All right, Melvin. Boy, Vegas, quick. So communicating with these challenging people. Wow, you know, there's a lot to be said on this, isn't it? We deal with it every day. It seems like even more so because our worlds have intersected into technology. Over the last 2 years, we've been placed into sometimes unnatural situations. And communication is essential, though, isn't it? It remains essential in how you communicate, how you connect with others, certainly how you set those clear and assertive boundaries on getting your needs met. That's really the whole crest of what communication is about. Me giving you information you need, you sharing it back, and us having that exchange. What else is there, Melvin? So as you click through, but at times, you know we are confronted with people. Well, they're just not as cool with being open and calm. We know that, right? They're just not there where we are. Well, at least how we think we are. So we all know these folks, and yep, we're going to call those the challenging ones. Let's keep going through. So right out of the bat, we're going to get started and allow ourselves to get involved in some stretch and grow. So in your Zoom rooms, you're about to be placed into some Zoom rooms. I know you know that drill. And in that, I want you to spend about 12 minutes together sharing. And in that sharing, what I'd ask you to do is, what is the most concerning thing that happens for you when you're communicating with challenging people? What are the most concerning things for you when you're challenged in the communication with people that are just not as cool as you? How about that? So the question is in the chat, in case you forget. We have you broken into groups that will go out in just a second. I would ask, just for logistics sake, if in the room, the first thing you do as you settle together is someone be the scribe, in other words, someone who takes the notes, someone who acts as the timekeeper, keeping an eye, making sure that you're not running over time and that everybody has an opportunity to speak. And then whoever's going to be the spokesperson, because we will ask for each group to have a spokesperson. And when you come back, groups 1, 2, 3, 4, we'll come back into the big room and we will share. So everybody cool? Everybody got it? So what's most concerning for you in communicating with challenging people? All right, transport, please.
I don't even know how to send a message to him. I don't know why Tracy puts me in charge of the breakout rooms. Because I'm not sure how to use
it. We're all in it together, Christine.
Melvin can help you if you need some help.
It's truly baptism by fire.
Yeah. Okay. When you're in the breakout room window, just look at the bottom. You should be able to click on message.
Okay.
Christine, Tony with probation.
Tony, a meetup group with those new to the AV. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. I'd just like Melvin to follow me around and speak for me.
Oh, Melvin? Oh, yeah. Melvin's great. He's with our with Children's Bureau. He's very you're like the MC, Melvin, right? Of all our events.
There we go.
5 seconds.
Must be some good talks. They don't want to come back.
I know, they didn't come back right away, huh?
So everybody's coming back now. Really.
That whiplash will kill us, Tracy.
So,
I know.
So sorry, so sorry. But thank you for joining us, Kim.
So everyone should be back now. And Stephanie, you might want to put the sign in again, just because we had a few people join us.
Okay, I'll put it in right now.
Okay, is everybody back? Looks like it. All right, wonderful. Well, thanks a lot. Melvin, pop that screen back up on us and let's go ahead and start talking. I can't wait to hear back to the question here. What is the most concerning for you in communication when with challenging people and why? So we can go ahead and take that down so we can see everybody's shiny faces, Melvin, and let's start with group 1. Who is our reporter in group 1?
Diana?
Okay, I wasn't sure if I was on mute or unmute.
Yes, no, it's okay.
All right, I'm here. Okay, so we did talk about quite a few things that I think are maybe might connect with you all. So one of the first was lack of accountability. So the other person not taking accountability for whatever the conversation, maybe making excuses or everything is other people's faults. They're just not taking personal accountability. So that can be one of the concerns. Another concern that was brought up was people having assumptions or presumptions. So making an idea of what that person experiences and kind of not really hearing it out, not being open-minded. So that was one of the concerns. Another concern was sometimes it's difficult to communicate and it's challenging because they withhold important information that could contribute to the conversation. And a lot of the times that conversation is dragged out because that information isn't being brought forth. Another one is having to guard your language. So kind of having to tiptoe around them because, they might respond negatively or they might feel triggered by something that you say. So that's some of what we talked about. Team, I don't know if there's anything that I missed, but that's what I had written.
Absolutely excellent. Really good insight. I jogged all that down because those are going to be important key things that we'll come back to in a little while. So thank you for that. Let's look at group 2. Who's our speaker?
I'm not sure. Lisa, do you know if we were group 2? I'm so sorry.
It might be Sylvia's group.
It might be my group.
We can nominate Sylvia's group.
Sorry. Okay, so I have the brightest people in my group in terms of nominating and volunteering. Because I volunteered to be the notes, I also got volunteered to be the speaker. So there you go. Mm-hmm. But no worries. But we had a really good conversation. We weren't able to finish the whole conversation, but I really appreciated everybody giving some input. And different things that can be challenging. One of them is really considering what the environment is or what type of conversation. Are you having a conversation with an employee? Are you having a conversation with a client or a constituent? That makes a huge difference on how things are interpreted, right? And really what is one a performance issue, is one a service issue. Another issue that came up that could be challenging is maintaining professionalism in terms of if finding that you're with a challenging person or a challenging situation, facial features, not just their facial features, but ours. And how do they trigger us and how do we trigger them? That could be a situation that could hinder a conversation. We talked about how really thinking about meeting, talking to people and really trying to think what is the root cause of some of these issues that are happening. If we actually give ourselves the opportunity to think about that, maybe it'll be different in how we communicate or how we feel the conversation happening. Really about when we're in some of these tough situations or challenging is really about finding compassion. You know, they may be in a situation that, you know, for example, you may be dealing with a family who's homeless at the time, and really saying, hey, we can't do this right now because this is how our program works. Is that really giving them what they want to hear? Is that really, you know, putting compassion into that? So really thinking about that. And a lot of times too is just as passionate as we may be for what we do, whether it's a service or a program or whatever it is that we're doing, the people that we're working with or this challenging person may be just as passionate too. And so now you have people just kind of competing for passion, right? And like, no, I'm more passionate. No, you're more passionate. So kind of just having some of that. And really just, I think a big one that Lisa shared with us was really about making sure that you're speaking the same language, because if you're not, that's going to be the first, the biggest challenge that could come from communication. If you may be both trying to say the same thing, but because you're not using the same words or not really understanding, it feels like you're not being understood or you're not being heard, when in reality, you may be saying the same thing, but just in different ways. So it's really about interpretation.
Yeah, really great work. Thank you so much. Love it. We're going to be addressing a lot of those components later on in the talk. So really glad to hear that. That tees us up nicely. The third group.
Hi, it's Elvie here.
Hi, Elvie.
My group was Tess, Kalila, Durrell, Adele, Donna, and me. So we first talked about how challenging it when you talk how challenging it is to deal with somebody that doesn't really listen and already thinking about an answer before you could even finish your sentence, and how to make sure that the message that you're trying to send has been understood. And I think that's a challenge of what the message that the sender is trying to send is not always what's being received by the receiver. Right. Yeah. So we also talk about the defensiveness, and that's when somebody becomes defensive, that they put up this wall, and it's hard there will be no communication that is productive to come after that, because there's no listening, there's no trying to understand. It's more of like, I'm defending my position because I'm being attacked, and it's hard to process any good communication from then on. Now, Donna also talked about, and we all agree that it's challenging to deal with somebody you're trying to communicate to you that do not respect your differences, that don't respect the right to disagree, and rather be forceful more about their opinion on you, but not respecting yours.
Loving all of that, Elvie. That is great. Go ahead.
And Adele and Tess and Kalila also was concerned about how to control our own emotion when we also feel like they're being rude to us. And Adele especially, and Tess is concerned about how to be kind and compassionate, even through all that, when you feel like you're also being attacked.
Yep. I know that feeling. I think we all do, don't we?
Yes.
Really, really great things, Elvie. Thank you so much. Is there another group?
Yes, there's our group 4, which I'm the spokesperson for. So okay. My group, we basically kind of said the same thing that everybody else said. Challenging people, it could be hard because the lack of willingness, they want to hear, and they don't see other people's point of view. They only see their point of view. They can't see past what they believe. Kimberly also mentioned something that I thought was good, which she said there's two sides of the coins: the people that don't want to speak at all and put their input, and the others that can't see anybody other's point of view other than their own. We also said that you can't take it too personal, because sometimes you just don't know what the other person's headspace is at. Maybe they're too stressed out that day, or they just had a bad day in general. So don't take it too personal. And also, sometimes you have to put yourself on check too. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's what we came up with in group 4.
Thank you. Wow, you all knocked it out of the park. Is there another group? All right, well, you pretty well have talked about everything that we're going to talk about. So how's that? So we're, at least we're aligned to that. That's always the best thing, is to be aligned, because you're right. All of the different components around here, it's just that, you know, that give and take, that push and pull that goes along with this conversation around, like, you're not listening. No, you're not listening. You're not saying what I'm meaning. No, that's not what I meant. I mean, there's just that back and forth and back and forth. And I think somebody even mentioned something that I love. The fact is, just respecting the fact that we may just have a different point of view. You know, we're so busy trying to convince the other person to come over to our side that sometimes it's just okay that we just don't agree on this subject. And it's all right. Nobody, this is not a loss for us to say, I see your point, or I appreciate your passion, but I'm going to stick with what I think. So let's keep going, Melvin. Let's dive in here now that we've gotten a good inventory. So who are these challenging people? Before we get into all the remedies, we got to first understand the different kinds. This by no means, folks, we just don't have enough time to go through all the different kinds of challenging people. But we just highlighted the biggest parts, and we'll keep going. So let's go ahead. Roy or Renee the Righteous. I bet you know these folks. They're the ones that better than everybody else. They're the know-it-alls. They're the ones that are the one-uppers. Like, oh, you like red. Well, I like red and blue. They also can be known as a little bit of the show-off. They like trying to impress you. Oh, I know Senator so-and-so. Oh, I know Jack Jones. And you know Jack Jones, he doesn't let everybody in. And then the comparing. Well, this is good, but such and such is better, right? So all of those things fall into the righteous one, the challenging one. How difficult is it? There's almost even, Melvin, if you go back, please, if you look at that picture even, somebody mentioned about physical cues in your talk a moment ago. Sometimes it's kind of that, right? That little haughtiness that goes along with, I am the righteous one. I know you, like, everyone else is just kind of here, but this is, I am the center of the universe. And that's where we have challenges, because just as anyone else that throws up a block or a wall, this person throws up a wall, because how do you permeate through that if they're the righteous one? So I bet you might know a Roy or Renee somewhere in your life, right? Next slide, Melvin. Thank you. Then as we start to think about carry the closed off, somebody brought that one up. That person that doesn't want to share, maybe a little bit too passive for the conversation, almost makes you feel like you're being an aggressor because they're just keep pulling back, or they may even use what I really don't like is that ploy towards emotional manipulation. You may say, you know what, Darrell, I have to talk to you about this situation. And they immediately start crying. You're like, what am I supposed to do with that? Like, what are you crying about? So what that's designed to do, you know what it is, Shindana, you know what it is. It is now I'm supposed to retreat from that. Like, okay, I don't want to hurt her feelings. I don't want to make her cry, Lisa. So I'm going to retreat. I'm coming back out of that. It's manipulation. Sometimes it shows up as a pushover. You've been around that person. I know you have, Day, where they are the yes person. Yep. Oh, whatever you say, whatever you want. What you lose by that is that authenticity, Tony. You're missing some authenticity. And kind of show up as the weakling. Like everybody else is so much more aggressive or so much more assertive than you. What you get from that is they don't contribute much to the conversation. They sit, they coil. They allow other people around them sometimes to even do the hard work, and they hide behind the skirts. So carry the closed off, another tough one, another challenging one. Keep going, Melvin. And then Alex, the angry. Anybody ever had an Alex the angry? You might have had one today. They meet everything that you do. I like to call these folks the tanks. They come through with all their points of view, and my point of view is the only point of view. They can be explosive, and sometimes, boy, they can be bossy, and even at the minimum, a handful to deal with. They want their way, and they'll do anything to get it. And some of that is gross manipulation. Some of that is sometimes being untruthful, sometimes being very aggressive. Whether it's in person, you can get this done through virtual too, right? Hanging up on you, closing off this. I'm just not going to let you see me. Not going to let you see me. All of those things are acts of aggression. You can't get through. How are you supposed to communicate? I have something I need to share with you. I have something I need to give you, Elvie. I need to share with you. But I can't do that if you're being all angry, because you know what happens. One of two things happen. You retreat because it's just too much. It's red. It's rageful. Or you get angry. Now we've got something. Now we're both escalating. And what comes from that? Nothing good. If we're both escalating, we can't hear each other anymore. We almost can't even see each other anymore. And I'm sure many of you have studied far better than me around what happens biologically, physiologically to us when we get angry. Did you know that you literally can't hear when you get angry? When you're like really revved up, something happens to your hearing. Something happens to your the idea around seeing red is real. Like you really can't see sometimes because you're so angry and your blood pressure is going up. And now there are no new ideas that can get shared here. Usually what this means is a pause time, right? And there's got to be someone in here, hopefully it's you, that says, whoa, we got to slow this down. Let's take a pause. Let's come back another day. Donna, let's retreat. Let's go. Keep going, Melvin. And then this one's my favorite. Termiko, it's so good to see you again. Negative Nancy or negative Nathan? Ooh. No. We've done that already before. Nope. We've tried that already before. Nope. Doesn't work. I heard it doesn't work. I think it doesn't work. No. They always have something bad to say. Always. They complain, they fuss, they critique, they judge. They are super difficult to communicate with and almost impossible day to please them. How am I supposed to please you if every time I bring up a new idea, you say no? How am I supposed to get engaged with you if every time you tell me no, why it's not going to work, Terry? Kim, you know how this feels when we're talking about complaining and critiquing and judging. It does make it difficult. Does anybody, I'm going to pause for a second. Bernadette, have you dealt with negative Nancy, negative Nathan before?
Oh, yeah.
And so when you got that, what happened to you as you kept hearing all of the negativity? What happened to you?
Well, you tend to get a bit on the frustrated side.
Yeah.
But then, like you said, you take a pause and you sort of redirect and say, well, I know we tried it before, but we're going to give it another go. And, we're going to see how this works. We're going to put in our effort, and we're all going to participate. And you just, that's the best thing that you can do is work with the Debbie Downer, is to show them why, why we're doing this again.
Right.
And it may not have worked the last time you tried it, but this time we're going to put a spin on it,
Right. Right.
And so just don't allow the Debbie Downer to manipulate the room.
Yes.
For the conversation.
Because they can take the oxygen. Bernadette, thank you so much for that. They can take the oxygen from the room, can't they? And all the ideas, all the things that you want to share, they can just take that out of you, Gabriella. And it can be frustrating because you go, but okay, it didn't work last time. That doesn't mean it's not going to work this time. You can restate. It's a different day now. It's the pandemic is going on. We have to work virtual. Things are different now. All bets are off. Right, Elvie? And then what do you get? No. So what do we do with all of this? Keep going, Melvin. Let's see what we can do. How are we going to handle this? We got about an hour. We're going to figure this out. But for a minute, we're going to go to a Zoom room again. And in this time, I want you to consider this. I want you to think about what makes communication so difficult with these personality types that we've discussed. Like, why is it so hard? I always like to say, why you make me work so hard just to tell you something, right? all I want to do is tell you something. I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm not trying to take anything from you. I just want to share something with you. So what makes these kinds of styles so difficult? And more important, and you mentioned it a few times in the last talk, is what's the outcome of your interaction? Like, what does this do to you? When you have a negative Nathan, how does that make you feel after the conversation? Are you feeling defeated? Are you feeling like, okay, I'm going to come back and I'm going to have this to say? Does your resolve get heightened when you're dealing with that person that's just so angry? Like, how do you begin to legislate your interaction? Because that's equally of importance about how you are managing yourself in the situation, because it's a two-way deal. So I'm not saying that it's your fault. What I'm saying is how being aware of your interaction really will help you, so that you can just be mindful, like, oh, when I come into a situation like this is what I feel like. So you can just have that awareness. So Melvin, let's take everybody back into, or whoever, I'm sorry, not just Melvin, I'm so used to Melvin doing it, going into our Zoom rooms and discussing that. The questions are in the chat. We'll give you about 12 minutes again to get that through, and we'll come back, same deal. Get yourself a timekeeper, get yourself a scribe, and get yourself a
She would hunt me down if I didn't show up.
Well, you got a good background. That ought to re-energize you a little bit, having that trade breeze back there.
Yep, it's my dream.
Yeah,
well,
me and you both.
I've been to Hawaii 5 times already.
Okay. I've never been to Hawaii.
Oh my gosh. Put it on your bucket list. You got to make it. Yeah, it's gorgeous. Our son and daughter-in-law and our 2 grandbabies just got back from Maui.
Oh, wow. It is definitely on my list. And thank you for that. I'm going to keep thinking and putting that into the universe, because I want that trip.
There you go. Speak it into existence.
That's exactly right, Kimberly.
I love Maui.
Oh, I'm just
Hawaii
that's going to be
really lovely.
Kihei is better because it's nice and quiet, and you could really enjoy all the beaches.
Oh, you all are making me really jealous right now. Like, I want to be somewhere, but you know what? If I can't be there, I'm glad I'm with you. So let's go into group 1. Let's make this rock. Group 1. Now, again, what makes communication so difficult with that personality type? And on the opposite of that, what's your outcome? What's your reaction to that? So let's keep going. I like that, Christine. Yeah, let's set it as a background and pretend. I love that. So, so we can take down the big screen, Melvin, so I can see everybody's shiny faces, and let's get going. So group 1, if you know who group 1 is. I know sometimes we don't always know our group numbers.
I think we're group 1, so I'll go ahead and share.
Thanks, Diana.
Yeah, no worries. So the first person that we focused on was the righteous person, and we shared how sometimes it's kind of hard and difficult to decide whether you're being helpful, because you're providing resources or you're trying to give help, and sometimes that person isn't necessarily open to it because they do know it all. So sometimes it's just hard to navigate whether you're feeling like you're helping or you're not.
Right.
The other person that we focused on was a passive person, and how we could kind of respond to that type of person. And it was mentioned that offering encouragement could be positive, and asking open-ended questions to kind of get that person to share a little bit more, to engage in the conversation. And then lastly, we also talked about the angry type of person.
Yes.
And how to disengage. So not engaging them in the anger aspects, or maybe not reacting the same way that they're reacting towards you, modeling that calm behavior and trying to get to the heart of the problem so that we can try to fix that, because they're obviously reacting to something, some type of problem, and we can change kind of the trajectory of what that looks like by offering help and addressing that specific problem. I know we got kicked off at the last couple minutes, so team, if there's anything I missed, feel free to share.
Thank you, Diana.
You did it, Diana. Thank you.
Really good reporter, Diana. You are really good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And Sylvia, she's co-signing, so I think it's all good. All right, so group number 2. Who's in that group?
This is Lisa, and I'm going to speak on behalf of our group. We're going to do a little musical speaker opportunities for everybody.
Okay,
we
Lisa.
went about our format, doing it a little differently, where each person shared which personality type really got their goat, so to speak.
Yep.
And so what we heard a lot was the negative person, people that constantly find the no's, but don't offer anything in return. They don't offer a solution. We also talked about the angry person and where it can be sometimes understandable. One of the examples was, for example, if we're working with children with trauma, we may understand an angry reaction from a child. But then when you see an adult act in that manner, that was a little bit more frustrating and upsetting. And the negative person, similar also. Again, they just said, there's no solutions to that. Mm-hmm. Something really great that Lisa in our group, not me, Lisa, the other Lisa shared, was a person that personalizes everything. And she learned a great strategy once. So this is a little bit of a hodgepodge of how I'm responding, but that she said she taught or she learned, you didn't mean to hurt my feelings by saying that, did you? So we all thought that was fantastic. If you can kind of realize in the moment what's happening. Some of the emotions and some of the feelings that came out of all of these types were the other person feeling very defeated, very frustrated, over the edge, exhausted, drained, and then it simply drives them crazy and saps energy.
Yeah, love that.
All of that. And some of the outcomes that we talked about was that it's really important to learn what the personality type is of someone else. We talked about the fact that having different personalities really enriches an interaction. You don't want somebody to be, everybody to have the exact same personality, right? So it's a contribution of different personality styles, but understanding how someone may react will be helpful to your overall outcome, so that you don't have false expectations about what that might be. And then I think everybody in the group really felt that people remaining solution focused in all interactions, that at least there's hope and there's a chance that there can be a good outcome at the end.
Wow. What a great report. Thank you so much, Lisa. Really good work, team. You all really nailed some really interesting things. I'd like adding in about the over personalization. I love that. That's a really great call out for that one and the solution with that. And what I really appreciated too was a comment that you made, Lisa, which was around anger, and that sometimes in context it can be understood. So if it's a child, if it's someone with special abilities, something that's happening that's outside of the realm, and you can really appreciate why that's happening. But if it's not in that circle, then you say that's inappropriate, right? So I like the fact that you added context to that, because that's an interesting way to think about that. Thank you, Lisa. All right, group 3.
Hi, so I'm going to try and capture what we've discussed here, Kimberly.
Okay. Thanks,
So for the know-it-all, that we all kind of agree that the know-it-all person tend to turn us off, and then hard to talk to that person that knows everything and can't teach him about anything. So you tend to tune them out.
Yep.
So, but then we say that maybe they do know something, and we may miss out on those, and something that they really know. So we have to catch ourselves and just redirect. Maybe when there's really something important that they're saying that is helpful, that we listen to, but that's sort of a challenge.
Yeah.
So for the crying one, we think that it's it makes us feel at times that we're the mean person because we made that person cry. So it's sort of a manipulative way of making us feel something that were not even our intention.
Yep.
But what do you do with those personalities? So we thought that, like Adele said, well, I'm just going to offer her something to do that needs to be done, and maybe be more encouraging, and help them. Maybe it's sort of a self-esteem issue, and help them feel more like they can do something. and get that something out of them. For the angry one, that's a bit of a challenge, because when somebody is yelling at us and being aggressive, we also tend to go to our flight or fight response as well. So we tend to be angry also and be defensive. So we have to catch that too. And Khalil had a very good idea that maybe we can't internalize it. Right. We had to try and understand, but maybe something had happened before they got there. Yeah. And they're still responding to that. Yeah. And maybe channeling that energy, that, great energy into something good. That would be the challenge that we can have. And for the negative one, Donna says, depends on where they land in my life. And we kind of agree that if it's somebody like a supervisor, for example, you just have to accept and deal with that and respond to it differently. But if somebody that is an equal or a peer, you find your way around it, and oftentimes you just ignore because it doesn't really matter. Yeah. But that outcome might lead some negative results as well, because that negative person maybe has that's just the way they are. And if we respond to it in a way we internalize it too, then we'll become negative as well. That's true. It is contagious. Yeah. That negative piece can be very contagious. You can take that with you. It's I call it one of the portable emotions. You take it with you. You don't want to, but you just do. You go, yeah, why bother? Right. Yeah, why am I thinking about this? Why did I even bring this up? Yeah, it's not going to work. And so before you know it, you've become negative Nelly too, like they've created another one. So you do have to watch that. So thank you for bringing that out, Elvie. Really great job again. Really like a lot about what you talked about that manipulation on the closed off one, and certainly appreciated that being really conscious and aware in the moment about anger and making sure. I think you brought up a good point, is that sometimes you can react, and then now you've created this opportunity for yourself too. So now you've just escalated both. And you're right. Our first response is that fight or flight. And oftentimes if it's right in your face, you're going to choose fight. So there you go. So thank you. Group 4.
I'm the spokesperson for group 4. And so we kind of did it like group 2. We didn't go through all of them, but we did mainly choose negative Nancy, the righteous, and passive pushovers. For negative Nancy, one of them, we did say that you just have to let that person go under their rant, or you just gotta let them go. And then unfortunately it does push back a lot of work, and it just sets back the vibe and everything. And then another one was just know that the negative Nancy, know the person is probably insecure, and they also it makes them better to make people feel small because of their insecurities. Another thing that we had mentioned was hurt people, and it ultimately creates patience from the other person that's taking that negative Nancy's person ego in. It's just that you have to create patience for that person. For passive pushovers, it could be very frustrating working with somebody that's a passive pushover. It could also be, annoying that someone is like just, crying all the time, or just, like, oh, why, just playing the victim part. Yep. And you just have to understand their point of view, and then hopefully they could work their way out of it. So, I mean, if I miss anything, my team, please.
I love these. And one of the things that you said, Stephanie, that your team brought out that I really liked was that the negative Nancy, sometimes that negativity really does set back the whole communication. Like it just takes away all the opportunity that you had for a productive exchange. You just take it away by the negativity. So thank you for pointing that out. Melvin, let's go to the bigger slides. These are good. I'm telling you, all have this in spades. You know what you're doing with these difficult communication. So thank you for this. I'm loving all of this. And so as we now go past this exercise that we've done, and we start to really think about, so what do we do? First, don't even try to change them. You can't change them. You know that. You cannot change people. People have to change their ideas. They have to be motivated to do that. So this doesn't mean that you're accepting bad behavior. It's just like, why take yourself through that? Sylvia, why allow yourself to then try to figure out somebody else's stuff? Don't you have enough going on with yourself, or are you trying to figure out our own, right? Like, don't try to change them. Remember, the more we try to change them, you know, like, how would we react? The more we dig our heels in, we start to resent, and we might even start to create even more difficult behavior patterns. Maybe I'm just closed off and now you're trying to change me and now I become negative. Like, I could morph into some of these other things. So let's keep going, Melvin. So as we begin to think about these in next level terms and all, we start to try to figure out, okay, what do we do? Let's go to the next slide, Melvin, when you get a chance. There it is, a little slow. All right, so what can you do? Here's the good news on Tuesday night. We can do a lot of things. First, we don't learn from talking, we learn from listening. So understanding where people are coming from, that really does drive some of this, because each one of you have the superpowers. You really have a superpower. And that superpower is to morph so you can be understood. How do we morph? We listen. So listening is the number one step in dealing with challenging people. We know one thing, everyone wants a stage. Everyone wants to feel heard. So no progress can take place until the other person feels acknowledged. Even if their idea is half-baked and you just know it's not going to work, hear them out. While you're listening, also be true, be authentic in your listening. Somebody mentioned it a moment ago, like listening so that they can already be thinking about what they're going to say next. Have you ever seen people like that? You can literally see it on their face. Have you ever called anybody out on it? Like, you're not even listening. You're not even listening. You're already thinking about what you're going to say. So while you're listening, you yourself focus. And sometimes it's hard to do it because you're just like, oh gosh, I just want to answer that question. No, be authentic, cue in with your eyes, be ready, not what you're going to say next, be very present because you might miss something if you don't. And what that does is it allows you to get out of your own way too, right? Allows you to be very present. Let's keep going, Melvin. So as we go through this, find your center. In the height of it all, stay calm. Breathing is your friend. Trust me when I tell you, that's why we started today out about breathing, because breathing truly is your friend. You can do it. You don't have to be very, out in the open, making a lot of sounds. No, you can do it on the QT. You can do it quiet, but allow some of that oxygen to come in, Gabriella, so that way you can then get the situation less emotionally charged. You got to regulate. It's easy to get caught up in the heat of the moment. And sometimes you're not even mad at each other. It's just that animation, like you say something and then I say something and then you say something and then I say something. And it just gets escalated. Monitor your breathing and just be mindful. That's why it's really good to practice mindfulness, so that way you can access it when you need it. If you practice it, you know exactly how to calm that down. I can bring mine down really quickly, and I can do it even while I'm talking. I've got that much practice with it. I can regulate, I can take some slow, deep breaths, and I can remain calm, because none of this will matter if I get myself upset. Now, what has that done? Nothing. Gabriella, I appreciate the love you gave me on that. Next slide. But careful not to judge. Don't be judgy. I know how easy it is because I do it too. I know, Terry, I do it. You don't want the other person. You don't know what the other person is going through. Somebody said that. In fact, 2 different groups said that a few minutes ago, didn't they? Is that we don't know what people are going through. We don't know what the last call was, especially in this environment right now. I've dealt with people over the last 2 years of COVID, and people have come into a meeting and I'm expecting them to be up and ready day. I'm thinking they're going to be in a place, and they may have just gotten a text. They may have just gotten a call that just shifted their world. And here I am being all judgy. And don't you feel really bad when you find out? You're like, oh my God, I am so sorry. And that's happened a lot because people have been getting bad news for the last 2 years. And sometimes right when they're working, somebody texts them. Somebody leaves a voicemail and you look at your phone and you see what the transcription is, or even just seeing that somebody is called and you're like, oh, I've been waiting on that call. How are you supposed to stay focused? How are you supposed to be engaged in a conversation? So remember I said a moment ago, paying attention to what the other person is doing, their cues. If you're really authentic and you really are honing in, you may see a shift. It may be subtle, but you know it's there. And what's the best question to ask somebody, Kim Watson? You know what it is. Is everything okay? Do you need a minute? Can this be done in a different day? Wow. Think about the cred you just got from that. So then they may even take you up on it and say, yeah, I just got some bad news. Do you mind if I take this phone call? Absolutely. You take care of you. We can come back to this. And then when they come back, wow, the conversation, the shift, they see you as a human. You see them as a human. You've got a sharing moment. You can get to a resolution in such a beautiful way. And you've connected, you've bonded, you've shared, you've experienced a moment with each other. So it doesn't have to be all of this meeting people where they live and coming at people hard and fast. As you heard from my bio, I graduated from Kellogg School of Management from Northwestern. And I got my MBA early when people still weren't getting MBAs a lot. So it didn't really mean as much as they do now when people get their MBAs. But I can remember in 1990 when I got mine, and through the courses that I took, it was hardcore. It was intense. I was not a nonprofit girl at the time. I was a corporate girl and spent most of my career in corporate. And what they talked a lot about back in those days was dancing with the wolves and swimming with the sharks. It was always about predators and you and how you were dealing with predators. And what I've learned since that time, 20 some years past that, is that no, that's not the best way to deal with humans. That's not the best way for even big negotiations to go down. Like, I got to meet you where you live, because at the end of the day, we're all humans. And hopefully the pandemic, when it leaves us, we will not let that go from us, because we have had opportunities to really realize each other as humans and not be so judgy. Because if you can put yourself in another person's situation, then that's going to break down some of those walls, some of those barriers, some of those negativities that we've already talked about, and allows two humans to have a conversation that sometimes you might not always agree on, but we can be respectful and we can agree to disagree. And I don't have to judge you and you don't have to judge me. And we can come away still friends. We can come away in still a good place, looking for compromise. So let's keep going into the conversation now. Let's get a little deeper. Excuse me. So this world of communication, wow, it's big. You all gave me 5 pages of notes on the things that you've learned in your Zoom rooms. It is big, isn't it? I mean, to do this in 2 hours, wow, it's just next to impossible. But there are so many ways, and somebody said this at the very beginning. It depends on who you're communicating with, Kimberly. Like, if I'm talking to my boss, that's one thing. If I'm talking to a peer, that's different. If I'm talking to my partner, if I'm talking to my children, if I'm talking to the person at the grocery store, it's all different. But guess what it is? It's all communication. It's all communication. So thinking about these techniques and how to deal with diplomacy and tact. You know, when I go to the grocery store, I'm a little anxious. I got to tell you, I'm still a little anxious. I got this mask on. I'm a mouth breather. I didn't know I was a mouth breather until COVID. Who knew that I would breathe through my mouth like all the time? So put a mask on me and I'm in trouble. So I'm feeling hot. I'm feeling sweaty. And I just want to know where the avocados are. That's all I want to know. Where's the avocados? I may not be my best self in that moment. I may not say, excuse me, could you point me to the avocados, please? I can't see them. I don't see them. This poor guy is keeping the produce department running. He doesn't need me jamming on him about some avocados, does he? So what I can do to help that exchange is say, hey, how you doing? I'm sorry to bother you, but can you point me in the direction of the avocados? That doesn't take up much energy. And he's going to do what he just did to me on Sunday. He walked me over. Hey, you want these? You don't want these unless you're making guacamole today. These are the better ones. Exchange. He was okay. He felt heard. I felt heard. We exchanged. Diplomacy, tact, and credibility. Huge pieces of communication. And then how do you interact with senior folks, people that are above you? What does that look like? I don't think it's materially different. I'm going to tell you that because every human, no matter what level they're at, they're still humans. Kindness, respect. Hopefully you're treating the people that are beneath you, I'm doing that in big air quotes, the same way, the same deference that we give above you, in quotes. I see people every day. Lisa Dawson knows this. I see people every day and they play to the higher authority. And then maybe not so great to the folks that report to them. So not cool. So check your communication. Like, I take almost challenge to say, is there that many different ways to communicate? Like at the end of the day, the cruxus is, I need to listen to you, you need to listen to me, and we need to come to resolution. Isn't that it? Isn't that just it at the end of the day? And then responding to conflict. We've been talking about this, how to flex our own communication style so we can be better in that moment. We get to be the bigger person in a lot of conversations, and I love that. Don't you love it when you know that you got the upper hand in that conversation because you were the bigger person? It doesn't hurt you. People say, oh, but I just can't do it. You can, because they know you were the bigger person. Now, you all were telling me the merits of Maui. That almost feels like I'm in Maui when I do that, Donna Hill. It really does. So check this, flex your communication style, play with it. Be playful with this. Tomorrow, start doing it. Tonight, when you have a conversation with someone in your household, you got to call DirecTV. I always lose it on the DirecTV people. It's not their fault. It's not their fault. Like, what am I fussing at them about? This person is just answering the phone. Why am I mad at her? I'm not mad at you. I don't know you. So why am I doing that? Communication, diplomacy, tact, credibility. How many times have you been nice to somebody on one of those phone calls, Spectrum, DirecTV, and if you were nice to them, they started giving you stuff? Because you know why? They're just so darn happy that somebody's being nice to them. They're like, can I give you an extra month of HBO Max? Yeah, you can. It's because they're just so glad you were nice. Communication with diplomacy, tact, and credibility. Melvin, let's keep going. I'm winding up and it's almost 7. We can't be doing this. Like, I'm ready to keep going till 10. Who's with me? Okay, maybe not 10, maybe 9. Donna Hill's like, no, Kimberly, you're good, but no, thank you. I got dinner to make. I got you. I see you, Donna. All right, so let's talk about you. Now we're going to talk about you. So when we think about our style, what's our style, Gabriella? What's our style? So there's lots of different ways, and there you can go on Google and there's a million different ways to figure out what your communication styles are. There are assessments and tools and all kinds of things, but this is a good one. It's simple. That's why I like it. So if you are a person who is extremely assertive and factual, just the facts, ma'am, just give me the facts. You know that person. Like, I don't want to hear all the extra stuff. I just want you to tell me 1, 2, 3, 4. That's all. Donna's shaking her hands. Just give me the facts. You don't have to create a story. I just want you to tell it. That person's style is called a director. So there you go, Miss Donna. If you are the person who is assertive and feeling, like, so then, the sunset was so pretty. And while we were sitting in the sunset, I started thinking about our problem, and it was so wonderful. And as I tasted the wonderful avocado and I tasted the wonderful mango, oh my God, stop it. We've tuned out. The directors have tuned out right then. They're like, expressor. The people who are other expressors are like, keep talking about it. I want to hear more. Who were the people? Was it entertaining? Wonderful. And then you got the probers, and they also can be factual. And those are what we call the thinkers. You know who they are. They ask a lot of questions. Okay, so then when you did this, then what happened? Then when you got finished with that, then what happened? And then, okay, so then how did you tie that together? Wow, you really got to have your game together when you have those folks, because they really are going to probe and ask you lots of questions. And then finally, your probers and your feeling people. They're a little bit different than your expressors. The feeling is really around the sensitivity, and they are avoiding conflict like the plague. Like, I just want everybody to get along. Okay, if that's what everybody says, you go around the room, right? You've been in those rooms. Does anybody have anything to say? Jacqueline, what about you? No, everything everybody said is good. Everything's fine. Jacqueline, you had said something about, but no, Kimberly, no, I'm good. All right, so I'm seeing everybody shaking their heads. People are noticing. They see themselves here. I'm bringing up some stuff now, right? I told you I would. So as you see the descriptors here, the director, as I mentioned a moment ago, tells it like it is. They make decisions quick. Let's get through it. Let's keep going. They might speak a little crisp. So sometimes people say, you know what, when I was talking to Kimberly, she just hurt my feelings. And you go, well, what did she do? What did she say? Well, she was just so crisp. She was so direct. She didn't let me finish sentences. Okay, well, let's talk about her style and your style. And so as we think about these things and you start to put people in buckets, and you probably, as I'm talking about them, you probably know some of these folks. And you go, oh, that's how come she always cuts me off. Because that's the big one. Directors will cut you off. If you have gone on longer than they need to hear, they will cut you off. Like, okay, I got it when you first started talking. Has anybody ever had anybody do that to them? Like, I got it. Stop. Donna Hill, I'm all in her head tonight. I'm with you, sis. I see you. Okay, let's go to the next slide and keep talking about this. So let's do your own quick inventory. So just eyeball this chart here. And if you're somebody who, and just kind of look at this chart here, and all you need to do is just kind of in your head, because we are looking at time, but take a look here. And if you're fast moving and dynamic in your body language, you could probably tell. I use my body, even sitting down, I use my body as much as I can. Like I'm half Italian, and you'll see that. My maiden name is Spioni. So I am true to my family. I use my hands a lot. And I'm fast moving. I talk fast. I'm from back east, right? So I have a lot of that body language cue on this piece here. Direct eye contact. I am a risk taker. I will take risks all day long. But there are other people who are more poised. I always admire them because I'm so not that. So you've got the more poised or the tentative, a little bit cautious. You have some folks like this. They're just so relaxed. You're like, well, am I keeping you from something? Because you look a little relaxed. You're a little overly relaxed. So here you go. So you've got the people who eye contact, they may not even look directly at you. They may look up over your head. Have you ever been around anybody that like really literally looks over you, looks past you? Inviting. They may be very inviting to it. You know, those are the relaxed when you're like, ooh, that felt a little creepy. That was a little too long, right? Additionally, people who are from a risk or how you respond to crisis, you can either be a risk taker. You could just really try to avoid it. Oh, please don't do it. You have other people who approach it from an analytical standpoint, and then other people who approach it from an empathetic standpoint. Like, I really understand that you're going through crisis right now. I'm really sorry for that. Versus somebody's asking you a lot of questions. Like if you're in 911 crisis, you don't need somebody to be analytical, do you? Like that might not be the moment to ask me a lot of questions, right? Last week, I had a little bit of a medical issue. Well, it ended up being a small heart attack. Yep, I had one. Tiny. Don't get alarmed. I'm good. But when I was talking to the person at the hospital in the ER, she was asking me like 5 million questions. And I said to her, I think something real bad's happening right here. So we may want to skip the questions and let's just go on in. Let me go on in. And then she was like, oh, I didn't realize, she's like, well, I have this list. And I was like, we can do that later because I think I need to see a doctor. So it depends on, of course, situational, some of this. We may pivot. I don't like to ever say one column is better than another column because it's situational. In some situations, when you're at home with your family, you may be very relaxed, and that is absolutely appropriate. At work, you could be very buttoned up and be very poised, right? So it just depends on your own situation and how you react to how that is done. Some people are extraordinarily consistent. Other people aren't. But these are cues when we're dealing with people. When we're talking about these challenging opportunities that we have with people, this is some of what lives in us. Keep going, Melvin. There's just a few little, and I'm just going to highlight one thing because it's almost dinner time for everybody. and you got somebody, whoever you live with, roommate, partner, whatever, and you're like, hey, I just been on this call for the last 2 hours. I'm trying to get some dinner going. And you got somebody just in your face. They are being very intense. The best way to do it, instead of saying, do you not see I'm trying to get dinner on the table? How about this? How about, can we get back to this later? How about that? So some of these little cues are just about pausing, because everything doesn't have to be decided in the moment. And you can de-escalate issues by just putting a pause, putting the yellow light up instead of the green light or the red light. Let's just slow it down. It gives everybody a chance to regulate and get back to where we need to, and then having the most important conversation. Keep going, Melvin. So, pitfalls, opportunities, and you. Pitfalls, opportunities, and you. Keep going, Melvin. And so as we think about this, let's learn more about how we become healthier. So let's go. Pitfalls. We've been talking about it. Monitoring your frustration levels. Relationship with fear. What's your fear on this? Are you afraid they're going to reject you because you're challenging the conversation, or you want to change the conversation? The big no-no, here it is, folks. Communicating while fatigued. If you are too tired, don't have that tough conversation. Do yourself a favor. It won't be your best self. If you know that whoever you're going to be communicating with is a morning person, try to have the conversation in the morning. If you know that they are not a night person, don't call them at 4:45 unless it's an emergency. Allow people to live where they are. Biodynamics really do matter in communication. And just the facts. Don't get all into the extraneous, because it clouds the conversation. So do that ahead of time. What are the facts, and what am I trying to accomplish in this conversation? Just jot it down. 3, you can do it on a Post-it. 3 things that I want to accomplish in this conversation, especially if you think it's going to be difficult. Keep going, Melvin. So, opportunities to create a better experience. Being prepared. Practice it if you feel really uncomfortable. Being prepared. Don't go off the cuff unless you are really good at being off the cuff. It is an art form, and it is one that most people do not have. Resilience, being very resilient, both you and them, and being able to regulate through that. As I mentioned a moment ago, being very present and watching body cues. And that engagement piece, a couple people of you said that in your Zoom rooms that I love. Establishing boundaries together. Like, I think we can get this accomplished in the next 5 minutes, but if it goes to 10, maybe we need to parking lot this and come back another day. When you yell at me, it makes me shut down and I don't hear you anymore. So can you please not yell? I'm not accustomed to having, someone call me out on my name or calling me out in a really disrespectful way. So can I just say to you that won't help? That won't help this conversation. It's okay for you to do that. That's called establishing engagement boundaries. Let's keep going, Mr. Melvin. And then the you. Pitfalls, opportunities, and you. Are you part of the problem? We've been talking about these other folks. Are you fueling the fire? Are you? Because if you are, you need to tame your own reaction. How about that? I've given you tools to think more about taming reaction, being aware of your reactions, and being patient. And then guess what? Be more patient. We have to allow grace and space right now. Donna, you crack me up. You've got to give people space and grace right now. You just do. You got to give people a little bit of latitude. You got to give yourself some latitude. And clarity and precision rules the day in good communication. How many times have you walked away and said, I don't think I got through? Or what did she just say? And then you have to have another meeting. Establishing what did we just learn from this conversation before you leave each other? Because you know what happens when you leave from that conversation, you start to create revisionist history. And everybody's got their own narrative. Everybody's got their own thought. And before you know it, the telephone game, it becomes something that you didn't even say in that room. So making sure that we've got clarity, recapturing, especially very difficult conversations in an email, it's always good because then that way you get one more shot at it. We talked about this, we said we were going to do that, and now we're going to move forward in this way. You go, no, wait, that's not what I said, Bernadette. What I said was da, 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 da. It gives you an opportunity for clarity. And this is the big one. Increase your comfortability with conflict. We have got to all have a better relationship with conflict. Conflict's not a bad thing if it's done in the right way. It's how diamonds get born. And there's nothing wrong with a diamond. I'm just going to tell you now. So really think about conflict. Conflict is how two people can legislate and come up with a new idea. No, this is what I think. No, Melvin, this is what I think. Melvin came to my team almost 3 years ago. He gets embarrassed every time I bring this up. But he came in and he said, I want you to know I'm good with conflict. And I was like, my kindred spirit is here. Because I'm good with conflict too. Like I'm one of 12 kids. You think I don't have a good relationship with conflict? I can tell you, it's my best friend. I know how to negotiate and meander through that, but you have to practice. You have to practice. You have to get okay with it being uncomfortable sometimes because it is a little uncomfortable. We know that. I'm not talking about conflict like wars or battles. I'm talking about conflict like, hey, I have a point of view and you have a point of view. Now, how do we get to a happy place? How do we get to a place of understanding? Because there's been many a time, and Melvin is shaking his head. He can attest to this, as well as the rest of my team. There are many times that I have a point of view that I think I really do know what I'm talking about. And after I listen to their point of view and we shake and bake, we either come up with a brand new idea or I oftentimes will give in to them. And even when I don't, they understand that at least they got heard. We had an opportunity. It's not a fight, it's conflict. I keep saying there needs to be a new word for conflict because it just has such a negative connotation that people don't understand how wonderful it can be. Keep going. So are you adding to the fuel? And then, of course, diversity has a play in here, doesn't it? It just does. How does diversity factor into all of this? It factors in. We come to the table with all our beautiful and perfect selves. We just do. Keep going with that, Melvin. Click on some other things. How do cultural differences factor in? I just told you, I am half Italian, half actually Sicilian. And then my other half is Trinidadian. You think I can get excited a little bit? I can, because I come with two amazing cultures built in this one little body here. And through that body, it is really, this dives in. Day, you had a question.
No, ma'am.
Oh, I think she was agreeing with you, but she put her raised hand up. Oh,
you're giving me some love. Okay, you're giving me a high five. I saw it said raised hand. Okay.
I put it down.
Okay, so cultural differences come into play. Diversity comes into play on all aspects of us. But then guess what else, Lisa, comes into play? How gender plays into this. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes we think we're having a conflict, just a straight up regular conflict. And sometimes it's just because we're not talking the same language because it's a male-female thing.
Yes.
It's real.
It is.
It is real. So some of the things, especially if you've ever had a guy boss, and this is generalizations, I'm going to put the disclaimer in there. So don't come at me and saying, well, not always. I know it's not always. But sometimes men don't want to hear all your personal stories. They told me that. Like, they don't want to hear on Monday morning what you did over the weekend. Let's just get to it. Right? A little bit of a difference. Whereas women, we want to talk about our personal stories. We want to share our personal stories. Oh, you went to Maui. Where'd you stay? Which island is the best one? Like, that's who we are. We're just kind of hardwired that way. We are really concerned with equalization. Women are. Like, what's equitable? And where sometimes men do want to kind of, and I give men all the props in the world. I am not a man basher. I have 11 brothers. So you know I love some guys. But what I will tell you is that just by their sheer nature, they have a bigger voice. They just have a louder voice. So sometimes they dominate a conversation they don't even mean to. They don't even realize it. So what you have to do, back to legislation and engagement, is say, I don't need you to talk so loud. Like, I'm good. Because when you talk loud, it feels like you're yelling at me. And I know you're not. I know that's not your intention, but that's what it feels like. You have to find your words in this arena of communication so that you can help people understand what their actions do to you. Somebody mentioned that. I think Lisa brought up one of the examples from her team about people talking about the impact of words and how that all kind of comes down to it. Women tend to form groups. Men tend to sometimes like to be on their own. Women typically are good listeners. They're very attentive in the listening. And men, I love them. I love my husband a whole bunch, but I got to tell you, I always tell him, now I've learned in 22 years that I have to tell him the most important thing at the end of the sentence, because that's the part he really hears. The first part of the sentence, not so much. But if I put that punchline at the end, like milk, when he goes to the grocery store, he's going to be like, I don't know exactly what she said, but she said something about milk. So I'll get milk. It does come off a little bit more aggressive. And when I watch men to men in rooms, as I said, I have 11 brothers, so I've had a lot of opportunity to observe men in their natural habitat. And sometimes they can be aggressive. And sometimes they're more prone to interrupt you, or the new thing, which none of us women, I'm sorry, misters that are in the room, we don't like mansplaining, do we? Like, I just said that. I didn't need you to restate what I just said. So these are the things that do come into play. Again, generalizations, but they do come into play. And then what else comes into play, Melvin? It's the next thing. It's culture. Culture comes into play too. How we were raised, what culture we were brought up in, has impact in how we come to the table in communication styles. I can't tell you how many times people have said to me in my career, I've been doing HR, this is my 42nd year in HR, and I can tell you something about that. I can't tell you how many times, because I've been the only in the room a whole lot in my career, where somebody has said, I don't know why you're so angry all the time. Just angry. And for the longest, in the early days, I didn't really know what that meant. I was like, I'm not angry. Like, why do you say I'm angry? Because I have a point of view, I'm angry? No, of course not. I'm like one of your nicer people that you're going to run into. So why you keep labeling me as an angry person? And then as time went on, I found out that, oh, there's a thing called an angry Black woman. Oh, I didn't know that. And that's what you would think that it's got nothing to do with my color. It's just who I am. But maybe it does. Maybe I'm coming across in a certain kind of way. I don't know. But I do want to make sure that I'm being very mindful about what that looks like and how that shows up. So cultural can really make a difference. So as you see here in this kind of very animated scene here at the airport, we have somebody says, I'm shaking my hand, and the other person is saying, I'm bowing to you and I'm trying to give you a card. And it's just kind of hodgepodgey, right? She's saying he seems a bit unfriendly, and he's saying, whoa, close in on my personal space here. And hey, I don't know what to do. What am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to bow? Donna, you're right. Implicit bias. We walk with it. We come with it. We walk with it. We wear it because we can't help it. We don't know. And so until we get informed and become aware, and now the nomenclature you hear a lot is woke, then I can't be better for you. But we do have to be mindful that that exists, that we come to the table with our authentic selves and our natural selves. And sometimes that gets misconstrued because of labels and stereotypes, or maybe how you're experiencing me. So these are the things in the communication gamut we have to be mindful about. We bring all of this to the table in maybe a 10-minute conversation. We bring this intersectionality of all these things of who we are. Whew. Somebody said a few minutes ago, we get exhausted, don't we? Does it all have to be so exhausting? Does it have to be so difficult? It doesn't. Use your language, use your words, cue in, schedule boundaries, engage, and above all, listen. Listen to what's being said, listen to what's not being said. It's all important. Melvin, keep going, please. As we wrap up, we think about seeking first to understand and then to be understood. One of my favorite quotes by Stephen Covey. So to understand means I have to listen. To be cooperative, I have to be empathetic. To be positive, I have to be caring. To be solutions driven, I've got to be problem solving. I got to come to the table, Kimberly Perkins, with every intention that we are going to solve this problem. And to be understood, I got to understand. Because everybody, I got to tell you, my favorite quote ever, you can't talk butterfly language with caterpillar people. I'm here to tell you. I'm here to tell you. So let's keep going. As we close up, it has been an absolute honor to talk about these things. It has really been fun. You all are great. Just kind of as we close up and we think about the sunset, and we think about dinner now somebody's got to make. We got to call DoorDash, something's going to go on. People can inspire you or they can drain you. Pick them and your approach wisely. That's by Mr. Hanson. Melvin, thank you so much for facilitating this with me. Team, excellent feedback you all gave me. Thank you.
I think you're the one that was excellent. Kimberly Garrett, if we can give a round of applause, either virtually or if you want to give her
amazing
applause.
Yes.
And Melvin for helping. Thank you so much. It was really a very enjoyable presentation. I just need 2 more minutes of everybody's time. If I can just share my screen once more. And let me pull up my presentation. Okay, and so again, final thoughts. If my colleague Stephanie can put in the chat, the Jamboard. So again, the Jamboard, I'm not sure if anyone is visiting it, but it's got resources from each of the modules that are coming up. If you're wanting to get in contact with any of the speakers, the information is there. So please, if you want any of that, please give it a, go visit it, and we'll make sure that we put every information up on there. And then this is some information from today's module. We've got some information about difficult people, dealing with difficult people, challenging people, Kimberly Garrett. And so just some information, again, that is on our Jamboard. So that's for you as well. Finally, if you're interested and you want to join Best Start, which is a program that this falls under, but the Policy Leadership Academy. We are on Facebook, on Instagram, and also on YouTube. And so as you are mostly aware, after this module, we'll be downloading the video into YouTube and you'll get the video. And then finally, next week, we have our very, very exciting speaker, Mr. James Banks. He's going to be talking about public service ethics. And Mr. Banks is a past city manager of Alexandria, Virginia. So super, super excited to have him. And finally, you could be doing a lot on your Tuesday, but you're here with us. So thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Module 6 is next week. So we're, I think, in the halfway point. And again, thank you so much for spending Tuesday with us. So.
Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you, Melvin. And thank you, Tracy, and all of you for staying with us. We really appreciate it. See you next week.
It's our pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Sorry, my internet kept going in and out.
No problem, Jamie.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.